got any questions, please just interrupt. We want this to to be as interactive as possible and not just listen to my voice continuously. So please interrupt. If you've got a question about the website I'm talking about or something I've just said, just give us a shout. So going through again, we've looked at the common trade species, tried to break it down between natural forest and plantation, so you could see, and in some profiles given a kind of overview of why or what has happened historically as to change the figures or to change the species. Not all profiles have a kind of brief overview of that, but some do, just to give a bit of interest, a bit of storyline to it. And
I would also add, if anyone who's on the call, if they have any species that they think are missing,
definitely.
And in fact, any of these in any of the information we've got here, if you disagree with any of it, or especially the species, just send me an email through and just say, look, we're dealing with XYZ other species that we know are commonly traded in those areas, so and we can add them to the list as well.
Definitely, that would be great. And then we move through to, I suppose, the two most detailed parts of the profile, which is the legal framework and the risk assessment. So for Indonesia, I think I'm on Malaysia at the moment, so let's go back to Indonesia. And you can see, I mean, they follow the same kind of pattern all the way through, but Indonesia, so the very first thing that's mentioned is about the VPA. So some of the websites that we've mentioned, for example, this one, the EU FLEGT facility, just gives you again, it's all overviews and updates of what is happening, so that you can just keep an eye on things. The Indonesian VPA. I mean, what's most interesting, I suppose, is the status, so you can see how long it's been going on for, and then the news from Indonesia, and you can also get some of the most important download document or documents that you can download from this page as well. So there, instantly, you've got the legal agreement that you can download and just check that all is well. For example, if we, I think I have, let me just click into here. So I've downloaded it already. So the voluntary partnership agreement is here, and probably the most interesting for you guys will be on page 17, I think. Oh, no. Let's keep going. Here we go. It's the Annex 2. It's the legality definition. So this just sets out the criteria, and just gives you basically it should be the go-to thing now for you to be able to check that all of the documents that you require, that you can just check that you are collecting the right documents to be covering your due diligence assessment. So it goes into more detail about your permit types, and then you can see you've got your principle, your criteria, your indicators, and then what kind of verifiers you will need. So useful document to have on your to have access to at all times, really. So if I go back to my, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, it's not letting me.
Sorry, Lucy. I think that one's been updated as well through on the MFP website. I think they had an English update of
okay.
Some of the updates they had through the evaluation work they did last year, joint evaluation work with Europeans. So on the MFP website is all the latest.
this is the MFP website.
Yeah.
So is that on, and this is under the publications. So I went to publications and then documents. So do you know where it is, Anand?
It's all those regulations, basically. It says all those regulations and what's below. Yeah, so it's all those. That's the equivalent of the standards.
Okay. Okay. So you can see, everybody, that there's lots of information, lots of posters. I'm just scrolling down to see if there's any more, because when I clicked into, for example, here this morning, it's all in Bahasa, I'm assuming, but so it will all need to be translated, and there's no English as yet. If I click back, I hope that it will come to here. So you can see it's a good source to go to, particularly if you speak Bahasa. But as Anand said, this is this is where they'll have the most up-to-date documents. I mean, the EU FLEGT facility website does get updated very regularly, so you've got both that you can go to make sure that you're working with the most up-to-date.
The idea of these profiles was not to, and I think most of the people would agree there's only a certain pool of sources that most people use anyway, but it's really for us to help make the process more efficient for members.
Yeah.
So to get it all in one place, and that you can use our website as a portal to get through to other sources of information that we've looked at, checked out a little bit of, and tried to provide you a little bit of a top analysis of what you can expect if you click on those links.
Exactly. Exactly. So other websites that are interesting in particular for the VPA is the JPIC, which is the Independent Monitoring Association. So it's got, again, on the profile, you've got a kind of overview about JPIC, who they are and who they stand for. But this is their website. A lot of it is in Indonesian. A lot of the reports are in Indonesian. So that's when it gets a little bit tricky. But what I thought was quite useful, maybe for you, was that you can get alerts. So you can set up your email address and set up your categories and then save it, and it will, you'll be emailed as and when there is an alert. But if I go to, hopefully this will work. If I take off the alert, then you've got a map. So I have, if I click into East Java and zoom in, and then zoom in again, and again, so you can see it's getting, number of reports is getting smaller because we're zooming in a little bit more. So then if I click into one of these 4 reports, and you know where your suppliers are, so you can really pinpoint and see if there are any reports on your suppliers. However, I have to say, and I don't quite understand why, but there don't seem to be any reports showing for this year at all. So whether they updated less regularly than I had thought they did, and maybe it's an annual update of all of the reports. I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody else knows, if they're on the line and can clarify this for us.
I believe that's one of the sticking points of the VPA becoming FLEGT at the moment. Is the independent monitoring that is going on, and the capacity. There's obviously a capacity shortfall in terms of independent monitoring at the moment, and so that's one of the things that's holding the VPA becoming FLEGT licensed timber. So it's something we've it's something we're kind of watching as well.
So is the plan to get more people trained to become independent monitors?
Yeah, they have it's like a network, so it's kind of more working with local NGOs, etc., as well, and giving them the capacity and the education to kind of raise those reports when they have issues. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, for example, if we click into this, you will see. I mean, I think it will be quite easy to shove that into Google Translate, and to be able to have a fairly good idea of what it's saying in the terms of description. But you can see that that's the permit type, and you can see that that's I'm assuming that that was the date that it was checked. And then actually we do have a date of a very recent date. So it's a useful website to go to, particularly if you use Google Translate, I think, is what I would say for that. Right, so moving on, we've got other websites. Now, unfortunately, I will give it a go, but the WRI risk assessment tool this morning was not loading at all, so I don't know if they're working on it. But that is a website that, again, it breaks it down into country profiles. So if your country, and Indonesia and Malaysia are certainly there, if your country is, I don't think it's, no. If your country is there, then they cover all sorts of things. I think there are 5 tabs: forest resources, forest management, contacts, and forest products, and another tab. But the forest, I mean, in the profile, it's detailed, and you can go through and just check. But I mean, a couple of useful things to pick out. One is the contacts. So they cover NGO, government departments, as well as some private associations. So websites, email addresses, if at all possible, that kind of information. And the other is the legality side of the risk tool. So it's slightly hidden, and it's a shame I can't show you. But if you go to the forest management and scroll all the way down, they do an overview of the most relevant laws and policies, and they cover 5 different areas. So it's forest laws, processing and manufacturing laws, trade laws, transport laws, and tax laws. And they tend to, if at all possible, have the links to the actual laws just in case you need them. But they do give, again, it's an overview of the law, what's important, what it covers, who it's for, and if there are any issues that have been highlighted by civil society or other stakeholders. So it gives quite a good overview of that in particular. You can see, I mean, there's forest legality checklists from TTF. I mean, again, just be wary because of the dates. That they were written in 2009, but it's always quite useful to have a set out checklist and then just make sure that you're updating with other sources of information. But in particular, there were 2 or 3 websites that were really useful, we found, from developing these profiles. One of them is the Global Forest Registry. So I will just try and find it. I think it could be that one. It is. So it was developed by FSC and NetCon. Covers a lot of countries. I think this is the one that doesn't cover Solomon Islands, for example, but if you click on, let's do Indonesia, it loads up like this, and it's their risk rating for the country. So you've got unspecified risks at the top. So it's specifying that, in their opinion, Indonesia is not a green. It's not a great, no problem, low risk. It's a kind of warning system, as it were, a kind of finger in the air kind of warning system. But what's useful is for two things. One, it's got a PDF of the applicable legislation. Not all countries have this. I don't think Romania has it. There are certain countries that just don't have this list of legislation. But it's useful to see if you want to, most countries that we did the country profiles for does have this draft list. So it tells you when it's updated, always useful. And then it goes through, let me go to the top, sorry. It goes through your criteria, so your legal rights to harvest, and then it breaks it down, which is quite interesting. So it tells you your criteria, and then it tells you the source information that you should be looking for, who is the legal authority, and then what is required, your legally required documents or records, and then basically where they got the information from. So that's quite a good thing to do and to check out. But then going down into the information, you can see that it's broken down into 5 different things. So legality, traditional and civil rights, high conservation value forest conversion, and GMO trees. And it gives you, I mean, let's just pick on one. So we'll pick on this one. So there is a low perception of corruption related to the granting and issuing of harvesting permits. So it's saying that, so you've got the justification, and it tells you that it's linking to the CPI, which is again covered in the profile, and I'm sure all of you are completely aware of the CPI. And it's giving a threshold. It's basically saying, look, if it's above 50, then that's not a problem. Then we'll say that it's low risk. But in this case, Indonesia is, I think, about 34. I think it's been rated out of 100. So it then says, warning, warning. We don't think that's particularly safe, so we're going to give it a red dot, a risk, an unspecified risk. And then it tells you just below your source information. So it's definitely got it for Indonesia, definitely got it for Malaysia and Papua New Guinea as well. I don't think it has for Solomon Islands, so quite a few of them are covered. Please keep interrupting if you have any information, or you just have a question, just give me a shout. And then further on in the profile, we look at the risk information. So this kind of covers a few more sources. So we also brought on board the kind of local news stories, or where you could find local news stories. So it's got a paragraph also on the most usual ones, like Monga Bay and Chatham House, for example. They're always good websites to go to. But then it's also got examples of, I think it's the Jakarta Post and the Malaysian The Star, as well as some NGO websites that report, if not frequently, then fairly regularly on those particular countries. So it's to give you a good base to find new information, or just to see what's going on. I think Rose actually was going to go through the local news sources with you, so I will further on in the webinar, I'll pass you over to Rose and she'll just take you through a couple. One actually very useful, I thought anyhow, website was the Indonesian Trade Promotion Centre page. Oh no, I could be lying. I think actually this is the one that's not very useful. Just because it didn't have the most up-to-date information. Sorry everybody, I'm just clicking through to see what ones I've opened. Here we go. So yes, so actually I lie because this is not useful at all in that it hasn't been updated. It's still talking about when the EUTR comes into power in 2013, so it hasn't been updated for quite some time. So ignore that one, please, and I will suggest to Anand that we take it off. I think the most interesting website that we found was Global Forest Watch. So you can come from it in two different ways. So you've got the country profiles, so up in the top left-hand corner. And then, I mean, you can see the number of countries that they've got. It covers a lot. I am trying to find Malaysia. There we go. And then you click into Malaysia, and it just gives you a very quick view of certain statistics. And you can see that you've got a kind of timeline of tree loss here as Malaysia as a whole. What kind of other information does it give? It's very, very high level. It's not going to give you any detail at all. But for example, if you go to forest type, it will tell you primary, regenerated and planted. It will give you, how much the economic value of the forest sector is, etc. But to me, the most interesting part of this website is actually the interactive map. So if you click into it, it comes up like this. And then I would like to go to, let's try Sarawak. So then you zoom in, then zoom in again. I'm actually not too bad. So the pink and the blue colours that you can see are basically forest change. So the pink is loss and the blue is gain. And one of the most interesting things is actually taking away the gain. And so you can see the loss over the last 12 years. I'm going to try and zoom in again. Let's see if it's working. Sometimes it takes a little time, and I think I've got so many websites open. I'll try and zoom in once more, and then I'll show you. It's got a time lapse, which is just down here, the tree loss cover. And so if you click play, you can see through from 2001 to 2013 exactly the tree cover loss that has taken place over the last 13 years. But what is also very useful, and particularly if you've got a supply chain out there and you've got your latitude and your longitude, you can put in and click in all sorts of information. So for example, if you wanted to just check on your palm oil plantations, you can see just about, it's not brilliant colouring, I have to say. I mean, if I take off the loss, I think it's clearer. But you can see that there's quite a bit of palm oil plantation. And then if you put on your lot again, and then perhaps do your time lapse, you can see where it's coming through. And it just gives you a good start. I know that, for example, for the when the RNO NMRO, as they're now called, had a look at 2 of our profiles, China and Russia. They did say that actually that they found the information sources that we were suggesting in the profiles were of good use and would certainly help support any due diligence assessments that you carried out. And this, to me, is a fantastic tool. The people who created the tool, so WRI, have also provided, they've done a webinar for TTF members specifically a couple of months ago, and I'm quite sure that if there are any other TTF members who would like to have a much better idea of how to use this tool, that they'd be willing to do yet another webinar for us. But if you haven't got time, then the how-to videos that they've set up are just good briefs. A couple of minutes, doesn't take you long at all, and you can see that you can see how to use the tool, how you can use the tool, and how they suggest you use the tool, and then it's up to you. So you've got an overview, you've got visualizing global data, more country data, looking at your forest statistics, which was what I initially showed you based on Malaysia, and then analysing forest change, which is exactly what I've just shown you now. Very, very briefly, though.
I think what's useful with this tool in particular, Lucy, is that
let me go back.
It helps. One, if members get their GPS coordinates for their concessions that they're sourcing from,
yeah,
they will be able to plug that in and then map those coordinates into a wider context. So what's happening in and around the concession that that they're sourcing from.
Yeah.
Are there mining concessions nearby? Are there palm oil concessions nearby? Where there's potential issues of conversion timber slipping into supply chains, etc., that members may need to look out for and manage, in particular. So I think those are the key things. Indonesia and Malaysia are quite good in terms of the data that WRI have been able to get, and with the land use data from that both Malaysia and Indonesia have shared. There is that data in Africa as well. I don't think it's the greatest up there at the moment, but it is being uploaded as and when they get it.
Yes, exactly. And I think they seemed quite keen to get people's views on one, how they use the tool, and two, what improvements could be made for the tool. And they, WRI in particular, are really interactive and really good at taking on board points of view. So if you have an idea of how it could be used, and actually it doesn't seem to be, you can't seem to find how to do something, or actually you say this would be really useful if they could show us this, then you open up that that communication with them, because they're really good. Both Anand and I have talked to Dow in particular, and we can easily give out contact details and set up that communication channel. So I think we're really covering most things. I mean, again, for example, I keep going back to the Indonesian one, and I do apologise, but you've got the silk, which is the, as it says on the tin, it's the online publisher of the legal documents. It doesn't show you the document, it doesn't give you a lot of information, but it's kind of like the FSC and the PEFC database, in that it gives you the names, the addresses, and the numbers and the date of accreditation. So it's a useful website to go to just to check on numbers, and in particular the dates of accreditation. Forest Watch Indonesia that's the one I was thinking of when I said this is a good one. It's now not opening, so let's try. And this will actually be just my last website that I'll take you through, and then I'll pass you over to Rose, who'll just quickly look through the sources, the news sources with you. Come on. Here we go. So it's quite useful. I mean, it's up to date. So you can see it's been updated even today. You've got information and stories and reports on, I mean, this one's on the NGOs, urging the ministry to comply with Public Information Disclosure Act. So it's focused, it's informative, it's up to date. So therefore, tick, 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 it's a good website to go to, particularly if you're using it in conjunction with others. Rose, shall I pass you over now to be able to go through very briefly the local sources of news?
Yes, that'd be great. If I take that back. Getting very technical now, sending over presenters. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen with you again as Lucy was before. What I'll do quickly is just go through the Corruption Perception Index, just because I got it on the my browser anyway, but also because it's one that TTF do mention as part of their products from unmanaged or unknown risk sources risk assessment checklist. And the reason we really thought this was an interesting website to go through, I mean, I'm sure you're all aware, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. Here we go. It's just that you can see how we're changing overall. Where have we gone? Here we go. So if we look at Malaysia, you can see the 2012, 2013 and 2014 score. So you can see 49, 50, 52. So it gives you a general indication of how the perception of that country's corruption is developing as time goes on. I believe that the way that the perception score is calculated is through interviews with kind of key stakeholders from the area as well. So just so you're aware of kind of how they get that number. They've also got a lot more information at the top as well. So I know we're quite short on time, so what we'll do is just go through, this is the Chatham House illegal logging portal, and this is the country profile for Malaysia. And all the different countries are searchable at the top as well, so it doesn't matter where you're interested in, you should be able to find something on there. And what they do is they go through a brief introduction into the country anyway, but what they also do is they kind of gather together all the different news stories, events and research papers from all over, which is really interesting to look at. So you'll see things here, we've got Monga Bay, we've got the Malaysian Insider, and as you go on, you'll also see events, as I said before, so conferences about the country. So it's quite a good place to start. So if you're starting to source from a new country that you've not had to work with previously, or you've not worked with them for a while, it's quite a good place to get started. And some of the different sources that they'll look through is something like the Star. Now, the Star is a very popular English language paper. So it provides just kind of lots of up-to-date news. And what I've done here, apologies for the peeling noise, is I've just done a quick search and put in something really easy like timber, and you'll see that lots of different stories are coming up. One thing that is important to note is just kind of think about where this news is coming from. So if it's a newspaper, how is the newspaper funded? Is it an independent newspaper? Does it receive backing from certain people? And it's also going to be from the business and kind of economics point of view. Whereas if we were to go to somewhere such as Monga Bay, which is this website here, we're going to get the more kind of environmental research paper kind of background of information. And both of these are very regularly updated. Another good one from Indonesia is the Jakarta Post as well. And again, they all have these little search buttons, so it's really easy to go through and find the information that you need. There's one more finally that I will go through quickly, and that is Species Plus. Now, Species Plus is a really interesting site to look for sort of CITES information and CMS information. And the reason that we liked this website in particular, because obviously this information you can get from lots of different sources, which we've talked about already and is also included in the profiles, is the way that you can narrow down the search. So for example, for location, we can just pop in Indonesia as a country, and then if you just do a search with no search entered into the search bar, you'll get a list of everything possible. Which you should be aware of, which is actually really useful. Or if there's one species in particular you want to have a look at, then you can look for that as well. So that's why we've highlighted this website in particular. So I know we're quite short on time, so I think that's all I'll go through with you today. Obviously, all these sites that we've talked about are part of the profiles, so you can always have a look at those. And I'll pop this back onto the presentation. And I'll just hand over to Lucy again just to finish off.
Right. I was just wondering if anybody had any questions, actually. You give us a shout either through chat or just unmute yourself. But it would be good to hear from you if if there are any interesting comments that you have, or if it's hopefully it's been very worthwhile for you the last hour. That would be good to hear. Very, very briefly though, we did look, Anand asked us to just look at the risk and mitigation template that is on the TTF website, just to see how the profile fitted in with, in particular, products from unmanaged and unknown risk sources. So if I try and make this larger, so I just went through and it took me 5 minutes to go through, knowing what I did about the profiles, and I don't know if this has been, I'm quite sure this is not in any detail that that you all need it in, but it was just to give an example of what kind of information that you could put from the profiles into this checklist in terms of evidence and details. So hopefully it will show that the profile can be used to be able to update your assessments or update your checklists, and just keep them in just to keep them into the the most up-to-date manner possible. We don't seem to have any questions. Anand, would you like to say a few words?
Sorry, it's Ken Walsh from Dan's UK. Could I just make a couple of comments, please?
Yes, absolutely.
The two issues that we tend to have in Malaysia and in Indonesia are, first of all, where we're buying PFC products in Malaysia, Peninsular Malaysia, and we're buying FSC products in Indonesia. What is the potential for contamination of non-credible products? And the second issue that we have is where we're dealing with something like plantation rubber wood. How do we identify the date of the conversion of the land to be sure it was before the FSC cut-off point of 1994? Now, it would be interesting to know if there's any of those websites that you pointed us towards would be helpful with regard to either of those.
Let me have a think about that, because I think I've seen something along those lines, particularly the plantation rubber one. But I think we've got your email address, so I can start that conversation with you just after this webinar and see if we can help at all. I'm pointing you in any directions that we found along the way.
In some of those areas, land allocation is done locally, and some of it's done regionally. So it needs to. I don't know. Well, we need to see if we've got access to those websites. I don't think most the local kind of government have any easily accessible information regarding when permits, when legal conversion was, when conversion for those areas was approved, if you like.
Okay.
I think,
The issue over the potential for mixing is obviously a major concern, because you're in the realms of high-risk certified product from high-risk areas, and that's quite difficult, because you can be as robust as you need to be regarding gathering information, but it's people's ability to bypass the normal system that makes it quite challenging. This is where SVLK is obviously supposed to plug that gap, but there seems to be major issues with SVLK.
Yeah.
If JP has only got the capacity to monitor 5% of the audit.
Exactly, and actually on one of the websites that I showed you, there was a letter from the ministry to governors of, I think, at least 6 provinces saying, a lot of the SMEs just haven't even heard of SVLK, so come on, you've got to help us now, basically, to not quoting exactly, obviously, but they were saying, and it was a recent letter saying, actually, it's been going on for too long now for SMEs not to have heard of it. So you've now got to start helping.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll be in touch and see if there's anything that we can help you with.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Anand, do you want to have a word?
No, I think we've covered it all really. We just need to really give an overview for members. The details there. Just start using it, have a play with it, see what's useful, what's not, and let us know how useful they are.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That would be good to get some feedback on them. That would be good. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you found it useful. As Anand said, feedback would be great. And look forward to speaking to some of you again next week when we go through Russia and Eastern Europe. I think it is next week, this time next week, in fact. So thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of the Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.